Welcome back to Oblivious Maximus. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Searle, and I'm here with my other host,
Aaron Osborne. Me. I'm here.
How are you, Aaron?
Great. How are you?
I'm going sick.
That's good.
What's happening today?
Just school holiday traffic is over, so we're back to Melbourne traffic.
Awesome experience for me. You called me to tell me that you were running late, which is the first time that's happened.
Yeah, ever.
I would say. Nice big win for me.
So to talk about that and more, we have Sophie from RUB. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to come on.
So sorry that you're the first person that's ever experienced me run late.
Yeah.
But
I was saying before, so I was just, for full disclosure, being on time is not who I am as a person. Never has been, never will be, I'm afraid.
Except for today.
Well, that's the thing, I was on, but the reason that I was on time is because I had told you that I would be there a bit before 6. And that to me was scooting in at 6 on the dot. So in my mind, I'm actually late than what I planned. And I realized that's how I'm going to do it it won't work, but that's how I could maybe hack my 15-minute lateness.
It's the mental setting the alarm clock.
Yeah.
My car clock is early, so every time I look at it, I got another 5 minutes.
Yeah. But dude, that's what I do too.
But I now factor that in, and then I'm still late.
That's what I do too. That's what I do too.
And you were early for the first on time for the first time.
Yeah.
Probably since we started doing this.
Well, I was telling Sophie before we started hitting record, I had to go home to get a few things, and I sat down on the couch for a second. I was like, that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
I could very easily just
over.
put my head down.
Yeah.
Well, I walk the dog, which is an activity that I do. And I was like, I got so much time because for the last 2 weeks, driving around here has been pretty breezy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But once they go back to school, it's fucked.
Well, it's my last week of work, so of course, rather than being on time, I went in at 10. And I was like, man, the traffic's great at 9 around here. All the kids are at school. All the tradies are on site. I'm whipping down the Eastern.
Let's go.
Yeah. Thanks for coming along, Sophie. You're a member of RUB. How long has RUB been around for now?
RUB, so we played our first show in November 22. But the actual project has existed since the first year of lockdown, 2020.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it kind of, do you want a little rundown of
Let's
history?
go.
Of course,
Yeah.
the
Okay,
history.
okay. All right. So it started off as literally as so many, I think, amazing punk and hardcore things that we're seeing now. It was a lockdown project. Yeah. So funnily enough, I have another musical project that I've been kind of grinding at for a number of years. And the first period of the lockdown, I was kind of doing that. It's more like synthy, doom wave kind of vibe. And I love it. It's still going, but by the time we're in our second lockdown in August, I just had no mental capacity for anything more than 3 chords.
Yeah.
And I think I'd kind of been feeling really frustrated with just the idea of wanting to use the time to be creative, finding that music and creativity was the only thing that felt good in that time. It literally was. Anything else I'd try for a bit and then, I'm just running for a bit. That was horrible. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, physical activity.
Yeah,
Fuck that.
Nothing else. But then I
got resistance bands at home.
Yeah. We've all got a little drawer full of things that we don't talk about anymore. But music was really helping my brain. But I was like, I actually just need to write 3 chord songs and let's fucking go. So I wrote a demo. So I think it was 3 songs. There was a 4th actually, but we didn't end up recording it properly. Oh, by we, I mean, I don't know what. Yeah, me.
Me, RUB.
Me, myself and I.
Yeah.
I wrote the songs and then my partner helped me record them.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Which was so lovely. He had a studio set up at our house and put them online, and that kind of was the end of what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Just because, I thought, this is a cool thing, get back into the world. And then I ended up meeting through I think you would both know. Do you know Sean Kennedy?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So our beautiful friend Sean, who's not with us any longer, I actually met Olivia at Sean's funeral.
Yeah, true.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were talking about music. She first approached me because I was wearing a Bikini Kill patch.
Nice. Good way to start.
Exactly, yeah. And she came over to me and we were talking about it and then stayed friends after the funeral. And I always think it was like Sean's little gift.
Yeah,
to
nice.
Me. Yeah.
that's
because
like
and he'd always really
beautiful.
he'd always really fucked with the music that I'd put online. He actually, funnily enough, when I was in another band in Melbourne, when I'd first moved to Melbourne in like 2016, he'd come and seen me play at like the Brunswick bar.
Yeah, nice.
The Brunswick Hotel or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was always like, yeah, let's go. And he had really, really fucked with the demo. And so, yeah, little Sean's kind of parting gift was, I think one of them was me and Liv meeting, and then Liv had heard the demo and was like, let's make a band. Like this needs to come to life.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so that's how we ended up playing. Liv found our drummer Mark, and then we've gone through a few bass players, just weren't quite the right fit until my dear friend Perry, who's the wife of one of my very, very long-term best friends, Claudia. She came on board this year and we've kind of gone ever since. We've unfortunately, well, it's sad, but it's again, like just the way things go. Liv has decided to just start to do more tattooing now. So she, we kind of had a big chat about it and she was like, I just feel like maybe I need to step back and do my own thing with tattooing. And so she's kind of given us her blessing to keep going in this new kind of generation 2.0 without her, but she'll always be part of RUB. So we've actually just got a new guitarist and we're about to play a show with her in August.
Nice.
Great.
Where's the show at?
It's Singing Bird.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be with Diploid and I think it's Diploid, Tumor, Jill Cerrone,
Sick.
a few others. It'll be great. Yeah. But her name's Dasha. She's a legend.
Nice.
Is this an Oblivious Maximus exclusive?
This is an exclusive.
It is. No, it is.
Yes.
Oh my God. Announcement.
We're getting one every
Yeah,
episode.
loving
let's
getting
go. Oh my
exclusives
God.
here.
Yeah, this can be the launch. Yeah, Dasha, I'll text you and make sure that's okay.
And what's been great to see is like the shows that you have played, it's not like being locked into one genre. You are playing like over a variety of different punk genres. And it seems like that's a great spot to be in.
That's my favorite. Like my mentality with RUB and something that Liv fully picked up and ran with me on, and that I feel like it's kind of embodied the band now moving forward again, is just having fun and like playing exactly what we want to play. Accessibility, like I love so many different genres of music. I love hardcore, I love punk, I love like Riot Girl, 90s stuff. I love, God, everything, whole alt rock, garage, grunge, everything. I love metal, but that's for another project. But although to be honest, there's some heavy
parts.
There is, actually. But I've never wanted to be locked into any kind of like, I don't know, trying to be like the hardest, toughest, like coolest thing. I can't write anything other than this particular genre. I just want to write whatever feels good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the other thing too is like, I think right now there's a real appetite for different stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe lockdown, I don't know, but like, having pretty much always played in bands that were kind of like the weirder version of the main thing.
Yeah.
Right now's doing the best. So I can attest to the fact that people are down with it right now. So
I actually think even the fact that I've been able to get into playing live and have been like, I felt really welcomed by the kind of Melbourne scene.
Yeah.
That probably attests to that anyway. Like, because I've grown up around music from when I was first able to kind of squeeze my way into any kind of alternate culture, which for me in Brisbane was kind of more just like metalcore adjacent stuff, really.
Sure, yeah.
That's kind of what was like accessible.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I found first. But then I didn't really feel like there was ever a place for me to be involved.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think like everyone was always very lovely and welcoming, but it was like the inherent place that I felt that was mine was on the side.
Yeah.
Whereas moving to Melbourne and then kind of moving into more of the like DIY punk scene here in particular. I mean, there's always been bands that I've looked at and I've seen like Yells and Outright, for example, right? Like that's like a metalcore adjacent, like Outright are kind of, again, kind of span a lot of different things. But I always saw Yells and I was like, okay, so you can do it if you're a woman, if you're femme. But it seemed a bit hard, or I just didn't really know how. Whereas recently, like everyone is doing it.
Yeah.
And it's the best.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think like, I think one, there's a sensibility, an artistic sensibility of Melbourne that is very different to other places, particularly, a place like Brisbane, which I think now is a lot different. But
I have heard, actually, people have said it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
It's a time thing. If you open this art house book behind me.
Oh, yeah.
It's like every page is like, not many women in here.
Yeah.
And it's like a little while ago now, but it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I think, that wasn't always the case in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I think to know that you can do it, you kind of have to see yourself up there as well.
Exactly.
But if it's only every so often when a band is touring or something like that, it makes it way harder.
And I think that's exactly right. And I, like, don't get me wrong, there were women in music in Brisbane, but they were in a very specific genre. So indie, folk, kind of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Heavy music, I didn't see them. That kind of thing. Whereas now I think like there's a specific kind of group of bands that we very often play with. And we're not intending on getting lineups that are all femme, queer women, but none of the bands that we're playing with are all cis white men.
Yeah.
And it's just not even because we're intentionally doing it. It's just because the scene is so rich.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I think like there's no time like, right now where even like, playing the festival that I played on the weekend that Ben was at too.
Yeah. It was a cold day, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're the fresh off the.
Oh yeah. Fresh off interstate gig in
yeah.
Brisbane.
And bombing a raffle.
Oh my God.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that later. But like even that show, like I would say like the band's very diverse in terms of how they were, the genres of music that were being played, but also like the variance, I suppose, in what the lineups look like and, who's participating in that and then who's working it and who like all that is shifted, I think, drastically.
Yeah. Love a mixed bill as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, and from your original point about the kind of genre that RUB plays, how we kind of just have a lot of different influences and play a lot of different things. I think that has also lent us to being able to fit in different bills if there are a focus on a particular sound, but then also, kind of people are just doing mixed bills now. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's more fun. Like I think there was a time where it's like, well, if you wanted to hear this, you have to go to this show.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can get a bit of everything on a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing to have.
Well, and I think just as like adults too, like it's so lovely to be able to see all of my friends in one place rather than having to go to multiple different things. They're now all together. So I'm glad the world has caught up to what I need socially.
If nothing else, I agree.
Yeah.
The hang is better.
The hang is better.
The hang is way better. And it's also, that's another funny thing about RUB and why I love it so much is that funnily enough, like it's also brought me community because back in, again, I feel like I'm ripping on Brisbane, not to riff on Brisbane, but I would go to shows by myself all the time.
Yeah.
And I ended up making friends, but a lot of them didn't live in Brisbane. They lived interstate. And me going to shows alone was just, it wasn't even a big deal. I didn't mind. But here, and I kind of started going to shows alone a little bit too, but very quickly because everybody are all legends here. Now I might rock up to a show by myself, but there's 30 people that are all my mates.
Yeah.
And it just feels so good. Whereas that I haven't really had before RUB, and I haven't had before kind of discovering this really amazing DIY scene.
Yeah.
And I think that's been, the explosion of, different subgenres after COVID, I think is a real reaction to that of people missing community and wanting to be with people. I was listening to like a few podcasts about young kids that are got really political radicalized over lockdown because they're just on the internet the whole time, and then they're like, oh, now that lockdowns have kind of ended, I'm now going to shows and I'm participating and I'm channeling it into that, which I think has been a big thing for a lot of us. Yeah.
And that's amazing too. And that I think that passion and the political activism behind punk, it's very important to me. And I think having lockdown and like the way that the world is now politicized and radicalized to the like bring people to the left, and then have them participate in the punk scene on top of that, like, and that's their outlet, I think is, I totally agree, it's adding to the richness. And it's adding, I think, to the authenticity of people being able to bring like their kind of, I don't know, like their full, this sounds like such a trite thing to say, but I genuinely believe it, right? Like their full selves to their music, to shows, and kind of find people that align with their values. Like I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the other thing that I think it's helpful too as well is that it then shows you kind of the other parts of your life that you don't like or you don't need as well. And I mean, I think that it's really funny looking back on like the way that, you know, I've lived my life thus far, and like all the things I've learnt from being a part of something that is, you know, by and large looked down upon as like a, you know, an anti-culture or whatever, has taught me so much more about like the world, the experience of the world, than a lot of people who haven't participated in this and have gone to, you know, private schools and got one job and then had the family and that's all they've ever done.
Yeah.
You know, like the worldview is so broad because of, you know, touring overseas and meeting all these people and, you know, learning lots of things about different cultures because of being there and being a part of it, you know, like that I absolutely would not have done had I not been involved with this, you know.
That's amazing. Like it being so expansive like that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I can completely see that. And I think it's like any kind of participation in like punk and that sort of scene, I think, is only going to expand who you are. And and that's the best.
Yeah. So Singin' Bird.
Yes, Singin' Bird.
I played with you at Singin' Bird.
Yes.
At the Flip and the Bird Fest.
That was amazing.
But that was another good example of like a very, very mixed show. Like hugely mixed.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was such a fun show.
And you had to leave to go to a wedding.
Yeah.
Immediately. Immediately after you played almost.
Also, shout out to Stu who booked us on that show, booked us at that festival by having us. We were playing a show at Singin' Bird like maybe 6 months prior. And I watched him pull out a piece of scrap paper from his pocket, write down RUB, and then put it back.
That's a professional agent
and said, I'll message you. You can play Flippin'.
Nice.
Which I was thought was incredible.
Pretty funny to have to write that name down.
I'm never going to remember this.
What was that band called again?
I know. It's so funny. He's the best. He was so generous to give us that spot because, kind of had seen us once and was like, yep, you guys can do it. And so, we opened the festival. We were on that main kind of big stage outside, and then
you were definitely early.
We were, and then we kind of, it was the first kind of big-ish stage that we'd played on that wasn't, you know, like in a bar of friends. It was really cool. And then I saw people coming over and like listening. I could see you and
the other thing that you guys famously saw us was I'd recently before that been gifted Aesop sun cream. And I was showing every single person how good this sun cream smelled. And
as if you wouldn't though, it does smell incredible.
Because we were there at the crack of dawn and me and Matt were all just putting on sun cream and watching RUB.
Yeah.
It was great.
Rubbing
that sun cream on.
Yeah. But no, we had to, so we played, packed down, and then had to drive to the Yarra Valley for my partner's bandmate's wedding, which was amazing. But it was the energy was very flipped.
A big day on the tools for you.
Yes, amazing.
It's not often that you go to a wedding to calm down.
It was, no, literally. That's exactly how it felt. And I felt like I arrived, we were all getting ready together. And I arrived at this house and I was all sweaty. Like, also like I'd been sweaty from like 10:30 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I had like gel in my hair. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, sorry guys, I just played at an industrial park in Frankston.
Yeah.
Now I got to look nice at this wedding.
I think also like what I've been putting in my hair as well as gel it's a industry secret, allegedly, lube to slick your hair down. So I was like, I'm like, sorry, I've just got some lube in my hair. I've just played a show. I need to. It's like, what
So
the
you
fuck is wrong with
you went for a different do for the wedding. You didn't go full.
I
slick down?
think I had to commit to the slick. I think because it was so. I think it was I can't remember, but I am almost 90% sure it was still a combo of sweat from Frankston, gel, and lube. Yeah, sorry, Josh. I promise. No, the wedding was amazing, and I think it was a nice vibe.
It added to your experience.
It did. It did.
And apart from your solo project, is RUB your first band, or have you played in other bands before that? Or
I've sort of so RUB, I would say, is definitely my first band. It's definitely the first band that's been like mine, you know. And it was like, so I'd kind of written it, and then it was Liv and I writing things together for that EP, and then with Liv stepping back, it kind of feels more like it's going to be me writing and then everybody who are now in the band writing together. And like Dasha writes and she's amazing. She's an amazing musician, but it was definitely kind of the first thing that felt like mine. I played in a few kind of bands here and there before, but never anything for any long. A lot of they didn't really get off the ground. Some of them in Brisbane, and yeah, it feels like it's my first one. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've got a lot of those in my back catalogue of like, we jammed for 6 weeks
yeah.
and then nothing happened.
Yeah. And I remember like, when I moved to Melbourne, I was in this band for a bit, but then like, I remember it was just this chaotic kind of thing where like the bass player was a real asshole and kept on getting in fights and getting kicked out of the places we'd play at. Like I think we played I know, he was actually the worst. We played 4 or 5 shows, and I think every single show except for one he got kicked out of.
My God, man.
Yeah. And then when I was kind of like, this is kind of not cool, then it was like, oh, Sophie, like, wow, you know, just trying to have fun. I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
I think I've been kicked out of 2 places in my life.
I know. And it wasn't in like a cool way. Like not that you can get kicked out in a cool way if you're like standing up for the little guy. You know what I mean? Like you're just, someone's, you know, a security guard's roughing someone up, but he would just get into stupid punch-ons because he was, anyway, that didn't work out.
Glad to be in RUB.
Yeah, I felt like that was,
So he's not getting the call up if anyone else.
God, you know what's so funny? I can't even remember his name.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
He's never there. He's always outside.
Yeah.
He's always getting kicked out.
Yeah, but I do remember that's one of the shows that SK came to.
Yeah. Some nice memories. Well, you know, sometimes people just got to get kicked out.
Yeah, he needs to get kicked out of
Life.
I was like, oh yeah, no, he does though. He does, yeah. Yeah, kicked out of my brain anyway. His memories.
We're almost there.
Yeah, literally. It's wisping away.
This is the final
nail.
Yeah. So recently I changed career paths.
Yes.
And then happened to find out that we work in the same industry, which is like just funny that
so good
that just randomly seeing someone's name, you're like, hey, I know who that person is.
The best. Yeah, I was so happy to hear this.
Yeah. So how did you become a lawyer? How did you get into law?
Another reveal. Look, I kind of always wanted to be a lawyer since I was a kid. Like it's funny, right? Because I think that
love arguing.
Yeah, love proving my point.
Yeah.
It was weirdly, I think I watched To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, actually I read it in school and then watched the Gregory Peck version, and he does this whole like speech where he's doing like a defense, and he talks about something, the unmitigated temerity, and then is like having this kind of thing, and then ends up, you know, fighting for justice, etc. And that kind of stuck with me as this like kind of white kid, middle class Brisbane, as this kind of really honorable thing to do. I think funnily enough, I always kind of then wanted to do it. I went to uni in Brisbane. I went to like a public school in Brisbane, was able to kind of like, I was doing like Amnesty International, you know, like the debate team, like that kind of human rights vibe from being very young, and then had wanted to do international human rights law again as a 17-year-old white kid in Brisbane. That was kind of maybe like my only conception of what I could do in terms of social justice.
Yeah.
And then kind of fell into family law for my first job, and then kind of realized that human rights work that I was really passionate about was more effective in your own community. So I think my sort of, lofty, like I actually like also have a fucking French degree, which is insane.
Nice.
Couldn't speak a single word.
That's okay.
But I was...
You did it. You got the piece of paper.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I did it with these like grand goals of, like the international lawyer kind of thing. Like I think I'd also just watched like Nicole Kidman in that movie that she's in where she's like an interpreter at the UN. And it's like very dramatic. Anyway, I was like, I had some dreams. It's cool. I remember she was cool. Yeah, I had some dreams, but I very quickly realized that community and working for the people that you are around and living in the same place as is so much more fulfilling. And then kind of just as soon as I conceptualized that in my brain, I was like, I'm just going to always work in the community legal sector.
Yeah.
So I really didn't like, I liked family law at the time because it was good to like help people out I did legal aid work. I worked with legal aid for a couple of years, but then always wanted to do human rights, like civil justice, and then went into another role with legal aid and then moved over to the community sector at Fitzroy Legal Service, which I am so happy to be in. And that's how, we're sort of
we're
CLC siblings.
Yeah.
I guess they are West Justice and Fitzroy. So I'm about to start a new role actually next week, which is a community outreach lawyer for St. Vincent's.
Nice.
It's going to be great. Yeah. So it's kind of just that real, community minded work. And I think what I like about Fitzroy Legal and why I moved from legal aid over to Fitzroy is just because it's a bit more embedded within the community. It has more space to be a lot more radical in terms of like the positions that it can take. I was pretty dissatisfied with legal aid's position on Palestine. So that was a big motivator for me to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really funny, like, not funny, but it's interesting when you find out that people, particularly in music, end up doing the same thing as you do for work. I mean, obviously I'm not a lawyer. I'm helping people's computers work, but
no, but you've got those you would have chosen to work somewhere like West Justice, right? Rather than
absolutely.
Like PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the decision making for me was after having spent the past 16 years of my life working for private companies, like, there's nothing wrong with it. They all had the best intentions, but at the end of the day, they were all doing it so that someone at the top could have a nicer house than the people at the bottom.
Yeah. It's always a tough thing where I've always gone, if I can at least relate it back to something, I've always worked in sort of education related stuff.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, if you're in the private sector, it's like, it's all going up, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and that was the drama that I had with it after so many years of doing it was I got high enough up in the industry that I started seeing the high up stuff.
But the sausage is made.
Well, truly, and I'd come from working in literally the lowest job and I'd worked my way up to it. And the way that, certain organizations were treating the people who were doing all the actual work was very like grubby to me.
Yeah.
And started not sitting right with me. So I was pretty happy to leave and then in my last role kind of be forced to make a decision. And then I was like, all right, I got to do something different. So I applied for just every job going. And then the ones that came to me, I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I could make a choice. And
that's amazing. Yeah.
The West Justice one came along and they're all lovely and they needed someone like me to do a job there. So I'm very happy to be doing it. But I think the other thing too for me is it's been so long because I'd spent such a long time working in the sort of, management corporate ish roles, it had been so long since I'd actually seen like something that I did have a direct impact to something.
That's amazing.
And so like having spent so long working in those management roles and not really, being so separated from like working directly with kids or something like that. Whereas in this role, like any decision that I'm making is helping the lawyers and that inherently is helping the next thing down.
Yeah.
So being able to make like something more accessible, then suddenly, great, now people are positively impacted by it. So, I mean, that's been hugely fulfilling for me in terms of what I do. But the exciting thing for me when seeing like people from music and that are into it is that like it really helps with like, showing that the values that come from this other thing are so transferable to stuff that, when some people say like music doesn't matter, well, what does matter? The law, I guess. So it's like
it's
good that like-minded people are in there.
No, and it's so funny because I think when I was like, I've kind of always been someone who, has been motivated by helping people and like, but doing it in a way that's like, like seeing the immediacy of your impact and doing it for the right reasons. I think that's kind of, it's always just been a strong driver for me. And that has always aligned with the kind of music that I listen to and the kind of subcultures that I'm drawn to. And I think there was a period of time where I felt like being a lawyer was like, there was points where I felt like I was going to work and I was having to wear like drag, like corporate drag. And I was like, kind of not really wanting to talk about what I was doing on the weekend. If I was, I didn't really want to say, oh yeah, I went to, a show, did this, that. I felt like I had to kind of keep it incredibly separate, even though the reason that I do my work and the reason why I do band stuff have really, really similar foundational values. Like if not,
absolutely.
And I think like as I've been really lucky to be able to slowly like align really down to the nitty gritty, the kind of organization that I work for and the kind of like, I've just been getting closer and closer and closer to who, like what my values are in terms of working for an organization like Fitzroy Legal. It's just kind of been able to then really for me feel like everything that I'm doing is very aligned. And so it's interesting because now I think who I am is just completely on show at my work.
Yeah.
I mean, like obviously I'm not, talking to clients about, coming to a RUB show, but but I think like in terms of like I'm proud to speak about my work in that punk space. And I just I kind of will be able to be really open about that. And I think we were talking about this before when I saw you at the Run show. Yeah. The idea of being able to be really upfront about like your kind of like left wing kind of viewpoints and being able to like show up authentically in the space and then having everyone be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah, you're all the same. Yeah, sick. And even now as I've been able to then like I've been at some like it was a like women's health kind of, I think it was like a community hub thing where I was there representing Fitzroy Legal at this big kind of seminar. And I looked over and I saw my friend who also plays, I feel like, I don't know whether to say her name or not. I don't know. I don't want to.
Sure. You don't need to
dox someone. I don't know.
On the pod.
Yeah, not that I'm sure she'd be like, yeah,
Out
sure.
them as a punk.
Yeah. But I saw my friend and we kind of looked at each other and I was like, yes. And then she does incredible work in the family violence space with women with disabilities. Is just this most incredible, incredible woman is in so many amazing bands. And then my friend Spike, like she is in family violence work as well. I remember talking recently with another friend who, we've kind of all been drawn to this community sector and we're like, this feels right.
Yeah.
And I think the aligning that stuff is like, it's so important to, because you do feel like it's so exhausting to have to cover that up all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Jobs, like, and I even found like getting into comedy, like when I started, I very much was like covering my tattoos and wanted to be really fit in. And then I was like, oh, that is actually exhausting and I'm not really speaking from an authentic place. And I found that the more that I get those things in line of job and my comedy and music stuff, it like, oh, it's all so much easier as well. Or I feel like it's just exhausting having to go like, I'm this person here and this person here.
Absolutely.
and I think that expectation is on so many people as well.
It
Yeah.
is.
I mean, and I think the other thing too, like I don't begrudge anyone who does, you know, who feels they're in a position where they have to kind of hide their personality or has made a choice that's like work is work, life is
Yeah.
life. But I think the thing for me was that like when I started feeling more confident in my work and when I started feeling like more joy from my work was when I started just being myself when I was
Yeah.
there. And that definitely didn't serve me fantastically in some workplaces because they didn't like the choices that I was making. But I mean, there was a pretty, ongoing gag at our old work or your present, almost not, but our old work.
When this comes out, done.
Yeah.
That I was like, the joke was like, if Aaron's wearing like dress shoes, he's got to go to a meeting. Like,
Yeah.
because like for the life of me, can't be wearing dress shoes.
Yeah.
And I also am like real hate wearing a button-up shirt.
Yeah.
And so whenever I'd come into work
yeah.
wearing a button-up shirt and dress shoes, people would just immediately be like, "Oh, who are you meeting with today?"
Yeah.
And I can successfully say that thankfully the community legal sector is pretty happy with me wearing jeans and
That rules.
normal street shoes to work every day.
Yeah,
So,
that rules so much, and I can. Yeah, it's very much the same at Fitzroy.
Yeah.
And I think it's like I love your point, Aaron, as well. That like it's a huge privilege for people to be able to feel like they can bring their authentic selves. And I know like for some people can't because of safety and because of all sorts of things. But I think and it's the same for me that I'm at a certain point in my career as well where I feel like I have the ability to do that more. But I actually find that it's being more authentically myself, or just being myself in my workplace, I think makes me a better lawyer.
yeah.
Funnily enough, I think, because I have the same thing with tattoos, right? So like I, for a very long time, hid my tattoos, didn't kind of show them. And I remember one of my old roles at my old job was I would go into the inpatient units at a variety of hospitals, but one of them in particular was the Origin Youth Ward. And I'd be going in to speak and give legal advice to kids who'd been, it's like they'd been put on an inpatient order. So like under the Mental Health Act, they've been made a compulsory patient.
Yeah.
Like sectioned would be like the kind of colloquial term. And I remember that was my job for a number of years, going in and giving legal advice about like the implications of what that meant in terms of like having a legal compulsion to receive treatment for usually for a mental health condition. But I remember kind of checking with my senior lawyer about what was the dress code and sort of saying, I'm assuming that I should cover my tattoos. And she laughed and she looked at me and she's like, "You better not." And I was like, "What?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "I go in there and they laugh at me and like call me a nerd." She's like, I think that you should go in exactly as you are because they'll listen to you more, these kids, because they'll be like, "Oh, okay, all right, what's all this then?" Yeah. And she's like, I literally will go in and then I'll leave feeling like I'm like 16 years old again, like playing in the string orchestra, which I have to say I also played in the string orchestra as a 16-year-old. So, but I would go in and then kind of have these kids kind of come up to me and be like, "Who are you? Like what?" Yeah. And then when I would say I was a lawyer, they actually would identify with me more. And I it
was a way to break it down.
That's right. And I think I've kind of realized, because especially, I mean, I've been literally maybe 2 days ago, I got a very visible hand tattoo.
Yeah.
My personality is leaking down. I used to run a tight ship, not anymore. It's all coming out. But my whole approach has been like, obviously you don't want to do your client a disservice by presenting some way in court where they might then not get a fair go if a magistrate isn't,
kind to this.
fully like viewing you as someone who's like a good lawyer because you have some script on your hand. But that notwithstanding, I think if you can rock up to a client and they can connect with you and then you can get them a good outcome, I think that that's going to end up being more important. And the kind of clients that I see, I don't need to worry about people judging me for hand tattoos I never want to work for a client who does, because I always want to work for the community. Those kind of clients would be like rich assholes that I don't want to work for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think like one of the things that has always stuck with me was I was one of those classic mature age uni students because I took forever to finish my degree.
Yep.
But I was like many years into working in schools and like was managing, before and after school care programs in schools. And I was at a class at uni and it was the middle of summer, so I wore shorts. And throughout the end of the lecture, the lecturer was just asking people questions about, because it was like the final year of uni for getting a teaching degree.
Yeah.
And people were like asking questions about how to get jobs and stuff. And out of nowhere, unsolicited, someone was like, what are some things that we need to know not to do when we go to apply for a job? And he pointed at me and he said, don't rock up like that.
Oh.
And I was like, I was old enough to stand up for myself at this point. And I was like, what?
Excuse me?
And he was just like, yeah, well, you'd never get a job going to a school like that. And I was like, well, I work at a school right now and this hasn't stopped me.
Amazing.
And he just stood there and he was like, no, but as a teacher, I was like, well, I actually blah, 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 blah. And then he just sort of looked really red-faced and was like, well, anyway, and started talking about something else. And this dude next to me was like, man, I've never seen someone school a lecturer. And I was like, yes.
It's like a college movie.
Yeah. Fuck you, man.
It's like that thing of that meme of like Job Stopper. It's like, I fucking wish.
It's I've been trying.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because I think like for me, like, and like with whether it's tattoos or a political opinion that you're, happy to like talk about in terms of like your value system. Again, knowing that the privilege that comes with being able to have this position, my view is always, if who I am doesn't align with an organization, I don't want to be working for them anyway.
100%.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that I've fallen into it now. And if something like, what I look like or my value system doesn't fly, then fair enough. I'll find somewhere where it does.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up. But thank you so much for coming and talking with us. What else has RUB got on the cards other than this reveal, which we've already
Yes, member reveal.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a kind of a hibernation while we got back up and running with Dasha. So we've got our first show back with her is at Singing Bird on the 2nd or 3rd of August. I'll have to check. And then we've got potentially a show coming in October. We have been invited to play this really exciting festival that's coming to Australia for the first time called Loud Women. And it's something that's been happening in the UK and Europe for a while. They're bringing it to Melbourne for the first time and we're playing that in December. So I'm so excited for that. And then we've got some other things that are brewing. What is it? Big things coming soon.
Yeah, the big things coming, man.
No. We've got a band that we love in Sydney that we're looking at doing maybe a split with. So it's going to be some real cool stuff.
Nice.
Watch this space.
Your show at Singing Bird is on August 3rd.
Thank you.
This is why he brings a laptop.
And the movie where Nicole Kidman is an interpreter is called The Interpreter.
Good to know. Thanks for looking that up.
That's amazing.
We need the laptop. The laptop rocks.
That's so good. My brain is so porous as well. I'm like, it's just, if it's gone.
Oh, that's great.
Solo, what you got on?
I am my next shows are in Newcastle and Sydney on Feb 26th in Newcastle at Newcastle Comedy Club. Head to my Instagram for tickets. And then the next night I'm at the Factory Theatre in the Workshop in Sydney. So come along to that. And then on the same night, you're playing
at Crowbar with I Hate God. It'll be great.
My show will be done at 8:15.
Aaron's on stage at 9, so
I'll be getting a maxi cab from the factory straight to Crowbar, and then we're DJing.
We've decided we're DJing, so we'll just keep manifesting.
What a night!
Yeah, big night in Sydney.
Yeah.
I texted Trout about it. He did reply. Wasn't very committed, but I'll sort that out in the next many days.
Exclusive launch.
Yeah, we're
DJing
launching
at
it.
Crowbar.
Yeah, we got exclusives.
We're launching things.
Yeah.
We're influencing.
Trad, it's there. It's happening.
Yeah, we're one of the big manifesting podcasts.
We talk about it. It happens.
Yeah, it's a thing now.
Yeah, just got that. And then the following weekend, I'm also going to Newcastle. We love Newey on the
I love
pod.
Newcastle
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Great spot.
Aglo's playing with Phantoms and Mauler and Thantu Thicker from Canberra in Newcastle on the 2nd at the Newcastle Hotel. And then on the 3rd in my beloved ACT at the Potbelly, a place I've been going to since I was a child. So it'll be nice to play there with my new band. Used to be able to stage dive off a piano there.
Oh,
Piano's gone now, sadly, but
Damn.
that is sad.
we'll have Aglo merch. So come buy that instead.
Love Aglo.
Hey, thanks. All right. That's it.
That's it.
Thanks for coming, Sophie.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you, Sophie.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.